Hello? Testing? Hello? Testing? Hello?
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society, good of all human lives upon it, and the just government of its people, we beseech you to look with your abundant favor upon us, your servants, whom you have entrusted with the performance of such important trust in this community. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that you may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our attention and deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this region and of those whose interests you have committed to us. Amen.
Item number 1 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Good afternoon, honorable members, and welcome back to the plenary. I don't think I have many communications to make, just to introduce some of the visitors we have today in the gallery. We have visitors invited by our colleague, Honorable Dr. Makame. You can look at them and you do know where they're coming from, even before I said who invited them. So these are Saida Rajab, Ramla Mdungi, Asha Ali. There's also Asha Sarboko, and there is Mariam Halid. This team works with the revolutionary government of Zanzibar, and they are in Arusha on official mission, but have also spared time to come and observe our proceedings. So, karibuni sana. And thank you, Dr. Makame, for inviting them. I personally miss Zanzibar, and I believe every one of you misses Zanzibar. So we hope we can have an opportunity to be in Zanzibar soon. Thank you. Karibuni.
Item number 2 on the order paper, report of the Committee on Agriculture, Tourism and Natural Resources on the oversight activity on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on food security in the EAC. By way of motion, resumption of debate interrupted on Wednesday, 19th May 2021.
Honorable members, as you may recall, yesterday we had the motion, and the motion was the report of the Committee on Agriculture, Tourism and Natural Resources on the oversight activity on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on food security in the East African community. And the debate had ensued. It was ongoing before it was interrupted by another motion. I remember Honorable Bahati was to be next, and then Honorable Odongo, if I'm not mistaken. Is it that, Honorable Bahati? Honorable Mary. It was Honorable Mary, then Honorable Odongo. Yes. Now you can proceed, Honorable Mary.
Procedure.
Yes, Honorable Rose Yako.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we have legal frameworks that guide the operations of this assembly and also the community. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to quote the Budget Act, and this is with relationship to the activities of this assembly. and also the procedural matters that council may be and should be aware of. I want to refer this assembly to the Budget Act 2008, Section 4. It says, I want to read it verbatim, that the council shall not later than the 30th day of April in each financial year submit and lay before the assembly the budget of the community for the next financial year. Now, Right Honorable Speaker, this is the 5th sitting and this is May. And I believe the purpose of these timelines is also to make the mandate of Parliament easily achievable with regard to the timelines also of passing the budget. So with regard to this activity, which is also an activity that has already been scheduled by Parliament to immediately take place after this sitting, such that the Committee on General Purpose will have time to look at this budget. And by the next sitting, we should be able to look into the issues that have been raised and be able to pass the budget in accordance with the provisions of the law. So wouldn't it be procedurally right that maybe we request the council member who is present here, if he's in position, to advise the assembly when this budget can be laid, since it's already out of schedule in accordance with the provisions of the Act. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Rose. I think most of the problems we had this financial year was caused by the delay of non-compliance with the statutory timelines on the submission of these documents before the House. So if we are already delayed again and we get delayed further, we are possibly going to encounter the same problems we encountered. So this is a very important point you have raised. Let me state, in the hope that before we finish the proceedings, the Secretariat and the Council to the community will be in the chambers so that they can explain it to us what is going on. So I state in the hope that, and I hope they are listening to me in the offices, they will be in the chambers to respond to your point before we close business. So, Honorable Mayor.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Of course, I know a council member is here, but for practical reasons, he needs to have the CTC and the Secretariat to be able to respond. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I want to start by stating my happiness to see our colleague, Honorable Chris Opoka, participating in this meeting. And thank you, Mr. Speaker, for facilitating this process so that we can have both virtual and physical meetings, so that those of us who are not able to be around physically, they can still participate and attend. Right Honorable Speaker, let me thank the Agriculture Committee and particularly the chair of the committee for presenting this good report. And I believe, like many of my colleagues who contributed yesterday, that it was very important to look at the situation of food production, food security for our people during the COVID period. There is no doubt that COVID must have affected, as has been proved by this report, must have affected food production, food security, food transportation, and distribution to different areas of the community. Now, I am not a member of this committee, and therefore I am not privy to the investigation as much as my colleagues who are members are, and therefore I wish to speak on the case of Uganda, not only as a legislator, but also as a farmer. I always want to state that I'm a farmer. So anything to do with issues of food production, farming, my heart is in there and my eyes and brain is open to it. I just want to share my experience during the COVID lockdown. First of all, most of us in Uganda left the cities, the urban centers, and we went home. It so happens that for the majority of Ugandans, we still, and I believe this is the same in many other member states of the East African community, you have a village that you belong to. And so it is always possible that you return to your village when necessary. For example, during the time of the festive season, Christmas, Easter, Eid, and so on, you will find that the cities are empty and Ugandans have gone to their homes, which homes actually mean the rural areas. So I retrieved to the farm, and the only time I came to the urban center was when it was necessary because of Eala work. Now, the food production, from my observation, did not immediately decrease. Actually, because the country had distributed so much seeds to the population, and particularly through the legislators, to their constituencies, food production was actually high in many places of Uganda. The problem was the markets. And this taught us a completely different lesson, particularly the leadership. So you had a bumper crop of maize, you had a bumper crop of beans and other produces. And because the markets were closed during the lockdown, hotels, of course, were closed, restaurants were closed, tourists were not coming in, the market availability for the food stuff was low. And so we had the prices of food really going down significantly. And yet the cost of production was not low. If you're a livestock farmer, you still have to look after your cows in terms of vaccination, deworming, acaricides, blah, blah. If you're a crop farmer, you also have similar expenses. The cost of maintaining even workers, even if you even convince them that that's just produce to eat, you still had to maintain them. So the experience of Uganda was this food that had nowhere to be sold. And so the price of food crops was cut almost to half. A bunch of matoke, which was costing over 10,000 shillings, now was being sold or bought from the farmer at 400 and sometimes below. This became a crisis. And even if the children were at home, people had left towns because also the children were not going to schools and so were redundant. People had run away from towns because we suspected that overcrowding in cities, there was more COVID, so the need to go home. And also, it happened from nature itself that the rainfall was high. We have had a lot of rain and less drought. And in fact, we have experienced sometimes too much rain and even flooding, but this has not really reduced the production levels. So the question then, and the problem became significantly clear that Uganda needed to improve its capacity to handle post-harvesting period or process. We realized that farmers did not have, for example, silos that are proper to store.
You wait, Honorable Mary, some telephone is interfering with your speech.
Must be in the lobby upstairs.
It has refused to go off.
No. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the way forward for Uganda, and which I believe is shared in the region, is that we realized that we needed to improve on the post-harvesting handling, storage of maize, processing of bananas, processing of all sorts of items, millet, whatever, call it, that Ugandans produce. Therefore, my recommendation as way forward is that East Africa needs to help the farmers, given the fact that there is a lot of produce, to be able to store their food, to be able to process it to the next level. And so we need more industrialization. And my view is that East Africa should be moving towards processing their own raw materials more and more. I know we are already doing this, but we need to step up on that so that farmers are not losing, and whatever is not consumed, and in the eventuality that food market is low, farmers can store, the country can process and store processed food. I wish to submit. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mary. Honorable George Odongo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, first I would like to thank the committee for this report. And from the outset, I would like to say I support the report. Right Honorable Speaker, I don't want to go the Musamali way. But Right Honorable Speaker, COVID has been a rude awakening to the community. If there has been any equalizer of recent, it has been COVID. COVID has made us wake up to the fact that we are vulnerable as East Africans. We are vulnerable as Africans, and therefore there is need for us to strengthen our integration, to strengthen our working relationships as different partner states. Right Honorable Speaker, this report, objective 1 is to enhance the capacity of the members of account. The first objective was, I don't know where I put my report, but mainly was to look at food security from the point of distribution and production. Right Honorable Speaker, in economics, there are two concepts. There's what we call allocative efficiency, and there is what we call the productive efficiency. In our case, Right Honorable Speaker, in the community, we are having two inefficiencies. That's the allocative inefficiency, and we also have the productive inefficiency. The allocative inefficiency is basically the optimal distribution of our goods and services. And as the report points clearly, that we are experiencing structural difficulties reaching out where there is mass production, and there are areas that have completely scarcity. And consequently, we're having a situation where we are unable to distribute what we produce. Now, this is a matter that requires partner states to think very, very creatively on how to deal with it. First, it has a lot to do with investment in infrastructure. On one hand, storage infrastructure, and rightfully so, as Honorable Mary has pointed out, that we need to develop capacity to build silos. During this COVID situation, when the Republic of Kenya had stopped the importation of maize from Uganda on account of aflatoxins, I had a conversation with high-ranking people within the Secretariat who told me that there is work in progress to see how the community can build silos in the different partner states. And I think they are working together with the European Union and some of our partners. I think that has got to be expedited, because then it will help us with, first of all, making sure that the post-harvest handling is well done. Then also to be able to manage the stocks so that we are able, because some of the agricultural products are perishable, but those stocks can then stay longer and can be distributed to areas where there is market. But two is that there is need for the community, the different partner states, to invest in road infrastructure. The road situation, I will speak for Uganda, in the rural areas is not very good. Consequently, it's very difficult to move agricultural products from one part of the country to another. We have a good network of roads, but those are major roads, but the rural roads are quite a challenge. But it is in the rural areas that we have the farming population in the whole of East Africa. East Africa is a huge arable land. Reports indicate that about 80% of the East African community land is arable land. In the case of a country like South Sudan, it's about 90%. Just imagine if 90% of that arable land is well utilized, then South Sudan is capable of feeding the whole of East Africa and the whole of Africa. So we need to see how do we then facilitate the farmer population so that they are more productive. Now, when it comes to productive inefficiencies, we are looking at producing at the least cost. Now, the cost of producing, particularly market-oriented farming systems, the cost of production is high. Why? One, because the cost of financing agriculture is very high. I don't know how we are thinking as a community, because if surely we say that agriculture is the backbone of our economies, then we should be putting emphasis on how we can develop agriculture. I see a lot of us thinking about competing with China and in other areas, in other sectors, and we are forgetting that we have here agriculture, and if we concentrated on what we know best, one will be dealing with household incomes, but also that will be generating revenue for the development of our different partner states. Now, the community needs to think about an agricultural bank, an East African agricultural bank, because the East African Development Bank has financing for agricultural sector, but my experience is that they focus more on large scale agriculture. And this report, when I read it, I can see that, particularly in the case of Uganda, the indication that during the COVID times, the production went low because people were in a lockdown and so on. That is not particularly true for the smallholder farmers, as Honorable Mary has indicated. The smallholder farmers were not held back by COVID because they continued to go to the gardens. There was production. Now, this report, I think, captured more information from those farmers that have been producing on a market scale, on a huge scale. Those are the farmers that were largely affected because they were not able to produce in huge numbers, in bulk. They were constrained by the COVID, by the COVID situation. Let's make no mistake. The most resilient economies in the recent times, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, are those economies that were able to produce food to sustain their people. The economies that were heavily impacted upon were those that were unable to produce food and relied so much on importation of food. Meaning that if we are to safeguard our economies, the East African community economies, from any other shocks, then there is need for us to invest heavily in the agricultural sector. And there is therefore need for us. I'm actually surprised that we are expanding the community, and as rightfully indicated by the Committee of Agriculture that was headed by Kasamba, the issue of an institution that is purposely put in place to look at agricultural development in East African community needs to be taken very seriously. Right, Honourable Speaker, COVID, even as we discuss COVID and its impact, there is a country that has been in a COVID situation for longer than the rest of us East Africans, and that's Burundi. I am surprised that, Right Honourable Speaker, that we are dealing with this COVID situation, but there is another type of COVID that hit Burundi sometimes back. And this community is shy to talk about it. It's the issue of sanctions. The sanctions in Burundi is another COVID. Until this community begins to have the courage to have that kind of conversation, we'll have COVID mutating and having different, it will start, showing itself in different guises. We need to talk about that COVID because Burundi has been locked out for a long time. This COVID situation found it already in a lockdown, in an economic lockdown. And this community needed to have stood up a long time ago to begin to have a conversation and have an East African community position on the situation of Burundi. So, Right Honourable Speaker, the report, I would like to first of all support this report on the question of the Malabo, the commitment of 10% of GDP to agriculture. I have encountered some of these conversations with our technocrats in Uganda. I would like to know, what does it mean really when you say 10% commitment to agriculture, where most of our partner states have failed to achieve? The argument has been that 10% includes investments on roads because they say roads facilitate agriculture. And they are going to tell you that the 10% also includes education because you need an enlightened population to be able to grow. They will tell you that you need a healthy population to be able to be productive. So they put all those investments and say we have even surpassed the 10% of the Malabo requirement. So there is need to have a very well-defined boundaries of what the Malabo Declaration actually wants. And we need to have that conversation with the different partners. My understanding is that the 10% should really be directly to farmers that are producing, directly in giving farm inputs, directly establishing markets, in value addition. Those are some of the areas that I thought this Malabo declaration is talking about, but there is need for that conversation so that we are on the same page. Right, Honourable Speaker, I would like to support the report of the committee, and I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Odongo. Is there any other member who wants to speak about? Honorable Ambassador Fatuma, Honorable Happiness. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. At the outset, I would like to start by thanking the Committee of Agriculture and our able chair, Honorable Makame, for a very good report, and also declare that I'm a member of the Agriculture Committee. Yesterday, a lot was said, and I'll make a small intervention, but I also want to emphasize that the report has shown that COVID-19 pandemic remains a threat to humanity, not only a health threat, but also an economic threat. Because when you talk about the impact of COVID-19 on food security and agriculture, which is the backbone of our economies, then it is affecting our economies. When you look at page 14 of this report, on the State Department of Livestock in the Republic of Kenya, where they say that livestock plays an important role in the Kenyan economy. It contributes 15% of GDP. It's a source of livelihood to up to 95% of the rural population. It employs up to 50% of the agricultural labor force. It contributes to food security. So you can imagine with COVID-19 and impact, especially in countries where they were locked down, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, but even in other countries, they had other measures taken. And wherever there were lockdowns, there were restrictions related to movements, and also trade where only essential commodities were allowed to be purchased. But of course, when you talk about farming that requires movement of farmers to go to their farms, but also some of the measures taken that even reduce the number of workers, whether it's in factories, supermarkets, but even in the markets. I know like in Rwanda, during the lockdowns, at least it would be like 50% of traders in the markets would be allowed to trade to respect COVID measures. And therefore, rather than, for example, going to the market every day to do your trade, you would go there like 3 times a week or 2 times a week. And this, of course, affects incomes. It affects employment creation. We are also aware that in the area of food security, agriculture, but also trade in foodstuffs, majority of the people who are working there are in the informal sector, and 60% of the informal sector are women. And therefore, the impact of COVID-19 to the livelihoods of our people is very real. There are many issues that have been raised in this report. Some of them existed even before COVID, but COVID worsened the situation. For example, if you talk about the issue of access to markets, the issue of distribution, the issue of impact or the link between food security and climate change, the link between food security, peace and security, because even when you look at the issue of distribution, there could be many reasons, but another reason could be because of political relations between partner states. So we also know that there is that link. And therefore, as a community, we have to deal with these structural challenges that impact on food production, on food security, but also on challenges that were raised during the time of COVID. But we shouldn't also look only at the challenges. There are also opportunities associated. Again, the experience we've seen during this COVID situation is that agriculture and food security is one of the resilient sectors compared, for example, to hospitality and tourism. Because at least in Rwanda, and I'm sure in other countries, I know in Burundi and in Tanzania, but also most of the countries, farmers continues to go to the farm and markets were open, selling food, although there are reductions, but this food was regarded as, and is still regarded as, an essential commodity. And therefore, there is a comparative advantage really in prioritizing agriculture and food security. We often say that agriculture is the backbone of our society, of our economy, but when it comes to actions, issues like increment of budget, most of our countries, allocation of agriculture sector is below 3%. It's only in a few countries that it goes up to 6%, which is far below the Malabo declaration and commitment, but also to our own commitments as countries. We say something, it's in our visions, it's in our strategies as a priority, but when you go to the budget allocation, there is no allocation. You know, in my local language, I don't know how I can translate that. Honorable Mary, who is a farmer, could assist, but they say, in Kinyarwanda, they say, ngusha akinha ararankazo, that if you want to get...
A beggar can help.
A beggar knows, because Kirundi is close, that if you want a cow, you have really to care for it so that you get a very good cow. So we want agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of our economies. But when you look at allocation in terms of budget, it's not there. If you look at the prioritization, because even when you talk about manufacturing sector, because COVID should have opened our eyes, why aren't we manufacturing agri products, add value, so that we don't send these products as primary products, because we are getting nothing from coffee and tea and other products when we just send them as primary products, and it can be done. Why don't we invest, for example, in seed multiplication, reduce on the GMOs, and also on the fertilizers, because this can be done. What about animal feeds? Imagine importing feeds to feed the fish and also our animals when you can do it at home. So I think all these are some of the opportunities that COVID should have, or maybe should have opened our eyes, that as a community, we need really to leverage on this and invest in manufacturing to produce most of these agricultural inputs that were coming outside our region. So finally, I also wanted to urge the council that one, as I said, increase budget allocation to agriculture and food security, invest in the production of fertilizers, seeds, and animal feeds. We have two important institutions in our community: the Health Research Commission in Burundi, and also the Science and Technology in Rwanda. Because if you are doing research in health, and today we are facing COVID crisis, the regions outside Africa are all coming up with vaccines. We don't have vaccine. We have great scientists, we have great researchers, but we have an institution. Why don't the community strengthen this institution, give it more budget, give it more staff in the area of research, so that you can aim at coming up with a vaccine. It can take years. Today it's COVID, tomorrow there'll be other epidemics. So I think we need really to strengthen these institutions. Same applies to Science and Technology Commission, because another opportunity during this COVID situation is the digital technology. We've been working for almost a year, going virtual. Everything is virtual. So the community has tried, been using the video facilities, but I think there is more that we can use in promoting technology. And this Science and Technology Commission should help us explore how we can do more trade in the area of agriculture, how farmers can communicate, and more opportunities in terms of e-business, but also help this community really to go to promote ICT in our day-to-day work, because I don't think COVID is going to go tomorrow. So lastly is the issue of the recovery funds. Some countries have started coming up with COVID-19 response or recovery economic plans. I know for Rwanda we have one, and one of the critical sectors is agriculture. I would wish and urge the council that this issue of recovery, coming up with recovery funds or stimulus package, as Europe and other regions did it, shouldn't be at a country level. It can be at a country level, but there should be a regional mechanism so that we guide even these other countries that haven't come up. Because there's no way that farmers, business people will be able to survive without the support of their governments and the region as a whole. So this is another area that I would urge the council to look into. And final one is on the issue of having a COVID-19 coordinated strategy as a region. I'm happy that the Secretary General is here. When you are still the CEO of the EABC, I'm sure business people were sharing to him challenges they face on cross-border trade, where every country comes with its own testing standards and requirements. And then rather than staying 2 days or a day, trucks would spend almost a month at the borders because of these unnecessary NTBs related to COVID. I know there are mechanisms in place, but when it comes to implementation, really, we still have challenges. So with that, Right Honorable Speaker, I support the report and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ambassador Fatuma. Honorable Happiness, Lugiko.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to add my voice on this report. I would like to declare that I support this report. Right Honorable Speaker, following the first confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the region, different governments responded by implementing a raft of containment measurements, including quarantine, social distancing, and stricter controls. The government restrictions on travel and movement, as well as the health impact of virus, led to a shortage of labor, raw materials, and infrastructure.
This in turn disrupted the harvesting and processing raw food, impacting the supply chain across the region. The pandemic also had a serious impact on labor-intensive crop production and processing due to labor shortages and the temporary cessation of production. Example, agricultural sector has faced labor shortage due to border closures that prevented thousands of seasonal workers from going to farms during the harvest period. Restrictions on movement of people prevented farmers from accessing markets and result in food waste. Also prevented farmers from being able to distribute their raw or processed food nationally and internationally. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Happiness. Seems now I can, Honorable Council Chair members, I think the council chair, the member of the council who was here yesterday made some comments with regard to this motion. I can only cross-check if there is any additional comment you want to take. Thank you. Honorable Dr. Makame.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I start off, I'd like to really thank you, Mr. Speaker, for leadership in this assembly. Mr. Speaker, this work which was done during the period of the COVID-19 need to be given a particular importance. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Secretary General. But while on that, Mr. Speaker, we've seen we are opening up, and also in the United Republic of Tanzania, Mr. Speaker, we got a new member of the summit, a lady, Honorable Her Excellency, Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan, the first female to be a member of the EAC summit. First female to be a member of the summit in this sub-Saharan region. We are commending her for that, but we saw what she did. She went to 2 countries already, partner states, and we are actually reviving in a new way. And I was very happy yesterday when I saw Right Honorable Speaker with the Secretary General, the President Judge, and of course the member from the Council. It was really a good picture, and it showed that now we are moving in a unified way, and we're moving towards the one people, one destiny. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I'd like to advise maybe the female caucus, if they may want to consider and move a motion to commend the new female head of state, who is a member of summit of the EAC. Mr. Speaker, having said that, now going to the motion at hand, I'd like, Mr. Speaker, to thank all the members who contributed to the motion. And I'd like to start with the Honorable Dr. Ann Ito, Honorable Gideon Gatpan, Honorable Honorable Christopher Ndwayo, Honorable Dr. Oda, Honorable Abdikadir Aden, Honorable Nur Adan Mohammed, Honorable Jean-Claude Barimuyabo, Honorable Ayoson Kennedy Mukulia, Honorable Fatuma Ibrahim Ali, Honorable Pierre Claver Rurakamvie Abega, Honorable Paul Mwasa Musamali, Honorable Simon Bugua, Honorable Florence Jematia Sagon, Honorable Francine Rutazana, Honorable Francoise Umuchiza, Honorable Kennedy Kalonzo Musyoka, Honorable Mary Mujeni, Honorable George Stephen Odongo, Honorable Her Excellency Ambassador Fatuma Ndagiza, and Honorable Happiness Elias Lugiko. And also, Mr. Speaker, I shouldn't be mean and also recognize the inputs by the clerk and his team, and also to thank my visitors here today, Ms. Asha Msomi, Ms. Saida Rajab, Asha Ali, Asha Sarboko, and Mariam Khalid. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Musyoka also spent time to bring written amendments, and also Honorable Musamali. All those amendments will be incorporated in the final motion that will be finalized, and that will go to the records of the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, so many issues were deliberated, but what I'd like to really thank members for having spent time to do justice to this report. But also, Mr. Speaker, I just noted one thing. How could I dare forget? Honorable Council Member Mzee Ezekiel, I'm very sorry, but I should have mentioned you first. Morakoze. Now, Mr. Speaker, so many members did justice to this report and contributed intensively, but I would really like to spend brief time so that Honorable Musyoka is also coming with his report, so that when he comes, he gets also time to finish the business. But one thing which we will all agree is that COVID pandemic is not only causing health issues or health shortfalls or challenges to the community and the globe, but as Honorable Her Excellency Fatuma Ndagiza pointed out, it's also an economic issue, it's also a social issue, it's also a cultural issue and political issue. It affects all aspects of life. We have to live with it, and life goes on. But in East Africa, we are saying COVID, up to now, I think Honorable Council Chair, a member of the Council, noted that we didn't respond adequately. We are not very prepared with the COVID, but we should have prepared ourselves to address this issue. And actually, to me, in my words, I would say COVID until now is an opportunity lost. Why am I saying it is an opportunity lost? Because it is the challenges that were caused by COVID that would have made us to create our value chains and to become self-sufficient in terms of food production, in terms of distributions and others. But unfortunately, that one has not taken place in a serious way as it should have taken. And we would really urge the Council to articulate this and to ensure that East Africa becomes a self-sustainable economy. And we build our own value chains so that in future, if any incident like COVID or something of that kind happens, then we can have an insulation and be assured by our own market. Mr. Speaker, many members, including my brother Honorable Noor, pointed issue of fertilizer, seed mechanization, commercialization. We're yet to achieve that. But we should do more towards that area. And also, the Council, I believe, the submissions by members on issue of regional food balance sheet, these early warning mechanisms. Earlier, they were being supported by USAID funds. But now, because USAID funds, the project is finished, then we are not sustaining that initiative. It's really, I wouldn't like to say, I'm trying to find a word which is more suitable. I wouldn't like to call it a shame, but I would really try to find some other word which is more appropriate. But I'm still finding, you know, English is my second language. Yeah, so you got my point. Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Odongo. The other thing I wanted to point out, Mr. Speaker, and this should actually have come first. When Honorable Dr. Ann Ito was deliberating, there was an issue with regards to a phrase on legal framework in the Republic of South Sudan, coordinating agriculture. And also when Dr. Oda contributed, that issue also came again. And when I checked it out, it came to my attention that this issue was really addressed, and it was supposed to be expunged from the report. But unfortunately, when it went to print, then that portion remained. So what we really have to do is to apologize to the colleagues from the Republic of South Sudan for that human error, and to say that that will be expunged. You know, in the Republic of South Sudan and all member states, we are, you know, it's in East Africa, we are partner states. We are not member states, and we are brotherly and sisters. So we really respect our colleagues, and that was just human oversight, and that will be rectified. Mr. Speaker, elsewhere, the issue of COVID-19 for a person like me and people in Zanzibar and other places here in East Africa, maybe we experienced the issue. We are just going through the month of Ramadan. And in the month of Ramadan, usually, there are some kinds of foodstuffs that are usually consumed in the evening when you're breaking the fast. And those foodstuffs are usually sold at reasonable rates, although during the month of Ramadan, they may hike up a bit. But this time around, some of them really shot up. And why? It's because they're being imported from outside. And people were really airing their concerns that, or maybe the business people are taking advantage because of this month. They know we are demanding this kind of foodstuffs, and they're hiking the prices. But actually, it was not a result of maybe business people wanting to exploit the situation, but it is the COVID. And we are seeing even most of the things which are being imported have shot up in price because of COVID. And members are talking about inflation, price push inflation, and demand pull inflation as well. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to just respond a few things on also in the report as raised by my colleague and senior brother, Honorable Nur Adan Mohammed, when he spoke about page 11 of this report. And I also want to clarify that, because I said I'll come back to it when I'm finalizing the submission. And on page 11, there's a 5.2.5. It reads recommendations from the Republic of South Sudan. And actually, there were some words missing there. It says it should be recommendation from the stakeholder, from the non-state actors in the Republic of South Sudan. So we are rectifying that to read that way. It is non-state actors, because the team interacted with the non-state actors first and then the state actors. So this was a part of the response from the non-state actors. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is my colleague and senior brother, the chair of chairs, Honorable Odongo, spoke something, words of solidarity. And these are words which we should be working on. This is not the first time this is coming. The issue about having a solidarity position of the East African community with regards to the sanctions in Burundi. I'm glad that the members from the council are here and the Secretary General is also here. I believe that they will do something to have a council position and also a summit position on this one. I'll share that in SADC, there was a position of the summit of SADC with regards to sanctions in the Republic of Zimbabwe. If SADC could pronounce against sanctions in the Republic of Zimbabwe, why can't EAC make a pronunciation? And in SADC, there are more countries members in SADC than there are in EAC. So it's easier to get a position here. Mr. Speaker, elsewhere, there was an issue of the locusts, issue of floods, and issue of responses. So, Mr. Speaker, these are issues I believe the Honorable Council Chair took into note, and they will definitely inform policy. But there was an issue of clarification I undertook to make in the recommendations that are found on the page 33. There was on page 8, item 8.6, which says, urge the Council of Ministers to adopt common cross-border protocols in order to facilitate the free movements of goods, including food items. This one was raised by Honorable Musamali, and the Honorable Musamali actually was wondering and puzzled. We already have customs union protocols, common market protocols. These are the protocols. Now, why should we be having these common cross-border protocols? You know, all these protocols, they are subject to security issues and health issues. Now, and that is a caveat in this implementation of these protocols. So when the COVID-19 pandemic struck, so the council developed a separate track of protocols for COVID. And this is what this recommendation here is that we should have a common protocol for all EAC countries. And actually that should aim to facilitate free movement of goods, including food items during COVID time. So that was the purpose of having this one. But Mr. Speaker, members have submitted, and I wish to reiterate and also to say that we are going to just beef up this recommendation here to have the implementation of Article 24 of the Customs Union Protocol that calls for establishment of the Committee on Trade and Remedies. We've been reminding the council, for years, and this has not been implemented. We know maybe there could be finance issues, but really, if anything, if I am asked, Mr. Speaker, today, what should be the priority for the members of the Council of the East African Community? What should be the priority for the SG of the East African Community? What should be the #1 priority? Do or die? I would say establishment of the Committee on Trade and Remedies for the East African Community, because this one would solve the issues of NTBs and would solve trade issues. Our people want to trade. East Africans want to trade. They want their goods to cross borders. Actually, these borders we are saying we want to dismantle, we are still maintaining them. And this committee will come to facilitate elimination and dismantling of these borders. Mr. Speaker, let me not take much of your time. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I beg to move. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And I think you thank very much, Honorable Nuru, for not interrupting your. Thank you. Okay, honorable members, I now propose the question that the report I propose the motion that the report, I put the question that the report of the Committee on Agriculture, Tourism and Natural Resources on the oversight activity on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on food security in the EAC be adopted. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. I want to join you, honorable members, to thank the chair, Honorable Dr. Makame, and the committee, first of all, for the choice of this activity, which was very relevant, given the situation we had been in and the conditions in which you undertook this activity in the midst of the pandemic itself. So the wisdom to interrogate a very important issue like the movement of food and the situation of food security in the region that was trapped in the midst of the pandemic actually was a very good choice of the activity. So thank you very much. So we hope the findings in the report will inform policymakers and ourselves on what we need to do next. Yes, thank you very much. Now we can proceed with the next item.
Item number 3 on the order paper, report of the Committee on Accounts on the capacity building activity by way of motion.
Honorable Kennedy Kalonzo, Chairperson, Committee on Accounts.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Before I begin, I want to beg your indulgence on our direction. You had previously directed that you'd respond to Honorable Rose's procedure issue once the council and CTC were around. So maybe do I still proceed or?
Yeah, you will proceed. I will give the council time to respond to that. But because some council members were not here yet and the Secretary General was not here yet, Honorable Rose, you will find the time to share with the SG and the council chair the procedural point you raised with us so that towards the end, I give them time to respond to the House. So in the meantime, Honorable, you share informally.
Point of procedure, Honorable,
yes.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Honorable Fatu.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. In the same vein, there is also another matter for the council consideration. They normally have to present a report to the Assembly on foreign affairs and security coordination. And it's an annual event, and we are concerned that it is coming to the end of this fiscal year. So probably when they're addressing the issue of the budget, they could also comment on when they are going to produce this report. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Council Chair and Honorable SG, the procedural points that have been raised about the delay to present these statutory documents to the House, the budget and the report that the Honorable Member just mentioned. So the CTC is around.
Procedure, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Honorable Order.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this floor. I wanted in that line, because you allowed another comment on that. Also, there is a report on accounts, which we have been waiting. If it's a good opportunity, maybe we can also be informed the latest report to be tabled for the Assembly to scrutinize. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. So the Council Chair, the CTC will assist and SCG is around. Before we close business, we really appreciate the responses. So in the meantime, Honorable Kalonzo, you can continue.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I beg to move the motion that the report on the accounts of the Committee on Accounts on Capacity Building activity be adopted.
Seconders? Yes, Honorable Fancy, Honorable Ambassador Fatuma, Honorable Rosa Cole, Honorable Marie Claire Brikukie, and all members standing. Honorable Kalonzo, can you proceed?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I will try to be brief, although I've been very informed that I must, for purposes of the Hansard, read verbatim, which I will attempt to do in the shortest time possible. So I will move to page
No,
3.
take your time. Don't feel constrained. Let's
Thank
read the
you.
report as it was prepared because we want to have everything on the record.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. So I'll move to page 3, point number 1, introduction. The East African Assembly is one of the organs of the East African Community under provisions of Article 49 of the Treaty for the establishment of the East African Community. It is mandated to exercise both legislative and oversight functions on matters within the scope of the EAC. To achieve high standards in its performance, therefore, Eala undertakes its oversight role to the EAC projects and programs through meetings, studies, workshops, tours, on-spot assessment activities, just to mention a few. The Committee on Accounts is among the 6 standing committees of the Assembly. Rule 79 of the Rules of Procedure provides for the appointment of relevant committees to discharge the functions of the Assembly. Rule 81 of the Rules of Procedure outlines the functions of these standing committees. However, Annex 5 provides for the specific functions of the Committee on Accounts as hereunder. 1. The main functions of this committee are to carry out a post-audit and scrutiny of the expenditure incurred by the EAC Secretariat, organs and institutions of the sums appropriated in an annual budget approved by the East Africa Legislative Assembly upon presentation by the chairperson of the Council of Ministers of the EAC. 2. The post-audit review and scrutiny of the expenditure will be on the basis of an annual audit report for the Audit Commission pursuant to the provisions of Articles 49(2)(c) and 134 of the treaty. This function is a post-budget and implementation of the budget by organs and institutions of the EAC. 3. The post-audit function encompasses the need to monitor the implementation of the budget in a manner similar to internal audit and pursuant to Rule 74(1). However, the functions of this committee do not extend to discussion and scrutiny of the budget for the forthcoming fiscal year. 5. At the end of each post-audit review and scrutiny of an audit report of the Audit Commission, the committee shall present a report with recommendations to the House for debate and adoption. In July 2020, the Assembly nominated new members of all standing committees. The tenure of all standing committees nominated in June 2020 commenced on the 1st August 2020. However, due to the delay in passing of the EAC budget for the financial year 2020-21, the activities of the Assembly for the financial year 2020-2021 commenced in October 2020. At this sitting held on 19th October 2020, the planning meeting of Eala decided that all standing committees organize capacity enhancement activities to equip the honorable members. I'm now on point number 2 on the background. Audit and accounting has been and remains a major and most important component of the socioeconomic development of the East African community. In its different aspects, it is a significant boost to the improvement of confidence. However, if not properly accomplished, it may lead to the deprived socioeconomic development and uncertainty. I'll now move to page number 4. The major objective of the treaty for the establishment of the East African community is the improvement of the economic welfare of the people of East Africa. The treaty treats accountability as a central feature of the East African integration process. The theme of audit and its role runs through Article 134 of the treaty for establishment of the East African Community. At the end of each post-audit review and scrutiny of an audit report of the Audit Commission, the committee shall present a report with recommendations to the House for debate and adoption. Therefore, it is imperative for the committee to acquire more skills and understanding in financial management and audit to enable them to take decisions which will impact improvement in financial, non-financial, and audit management within the community. In view of the foregoing, it was considered important that members of the Committee on Accounts, regardless of their intellectual and expert background, needed to be exposed to the knowledge on pertinent issues in respect of the mandate of the committee, particularly in areas of accounting systems, remittance of funds, in aspect of donors, procurement processes, and recruitment processes of the community. Accordingly, the committee conducted a capacity building workshop for the members of the committee from 26 to 29 October 2020 virtually. It is the committee's view that such knowledge can be systematically imparted through organized, tailored capacity enhancement programs from time to time. I'm now on point number 3, objectives of the activity. The capacity building workshop for members of the committee aimed at realizing the following objectives. Number 1, enhance the capacity of members of accounts committee with audit skills, which will enable them to adequately and effectively execute their mandate and functions. Appreciate the role of carrying out financial audits in organs and institutions of the EAC. Assess the effectiveness of management controls and identify sources of risk that need to be reviewed. Monitor the implementation and utilization of the budget given to all organs and institutions of the EAC. And 5, interpret and appreciate the role played by internal auditors, procurement department, and the external audit commission. Bullet number 4, scope of the capacity building. The training focused on the following thematic areas: accounting systems, remittance of funds in relation to donor funding. I'm now on page 5. Procurement processes and awarding of contracts and recruitment processes of the community. Bullet number 5 on methodology. During the training, the committee members, 1, received presentations from officers from the Directorate of Finance, Human Resource and Resource Mobilization of the EAC Secretariat, reviewed and made reference to a number of documents, including but not limited to the Treaty for the Establishment of the EAC, the EAC Financial Rules and Regulations 2012, EAC Financial Procedure Manual 2013, amended in 2019, Asset Management Disposal Policy and Procedures Manual 2014, the EAC Budget Act 2008, and the Management Administrative Directive Circular on Expenditure Rationalization of 2016. The committee also held plenary discussions with officers from the EAC Secretariat and came up with recommendations. Bullet number 6, relevant subjects noted during presentations. 6.1, an overview of accounts resource mobilization, human resource and procurement matters in the community. The community was briefed by the principal accountant, Mr. Godfrey Magadu, principal resource mobilization officer, Ms. Beta Mukabarange, Mr. Theophile Bazimaziki, senior resource officer, and Mr. Richard Karamangi, procurement officer from the EAC Secretariat. The following issues were noted. 6.1.2, governance of the department. The governance of the Department of Accounts is hinged on the following instruments. Firstly, the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community, precisely Article 71H and Article 135. 2, the EAC Financial Rules and Regulations 2012. 3, the ESC Financial Procedures Manual 2013 amended in 2019, and the Asset Management Disposal Policy and Procedures Manual of 2014, the ESC Budget Act of 2008, and Circular on Expenditure Rationalization of 2016. Authorization of the ESC budget. In a bid to operationalize the budget of the community, the following measures have been put in place. The Budget Act of 2008, Appropriation Act, approved annual operations plans, procurement plan, human resource plan, calendar of activities of the assembly, management systems. The following are the management systems that the accounts department operates through. Number one, budget management systems, BMS. Two, financial management, which is operated through the SUN system as a set of peripheral applications. Three, external audit, which involves the audit commission and other external auditors as per the Treaty Article 134, and standards operating procedures, which through TRIM as per ISO certification 9001-208. Financial Rules and Regulations 2012. In exercise of powers conferred upon the Council of Ministers by Articles 14.3G and 135.1 of the treaty, the Council developed financial rules and regulations in a bid to govern and manage the finances and resources of the community. Precisely, rules and regulations 13 to 125, which provide the following. Number one, budget management, management of financial resources, utilization of financial resources, including the General Reserve Fund, custody of financial resources, including banking, cash, interest, signatories, investment of community resources through the investment committee, plant and equipment, accounting records which are executed through accounting policies, IPSAS, and basic accounting, financial internal controls and internal audit done through the Audit and Risk Committee and internal audit, preparation of financial statements, and the Audit Commission. Components of the financial statements. The financial statements of the community include the following. Statement of financial position, including assets, liabilities, net assets, equity, statement of financial performance, that is the income and expenditure. I'm now on page 7. Statement of net assets, equity, which includes composition and movement of net assets. Cash flow statement, which involves utilization of cash, and notes to the financial statements, which are explanatory notes to the accounts. 6.2, procurement unit. The procurement unit plays an essential role in enabling that the community carries out its mandate within the realm of good governance and accountability as set out in Article 5 of the treaty, that is based on the ESC procurement manual and procurement best practices around the world. The following principles are taken into consideration when undertaking procurement activities. 1, value for money. Something that is well worth the money spent on it with the most advantageous combination of cost, quality, and sustainability to meet customers' requirements. 2, effective competition. This takes into account the wide geographic cover by having adequate notification and avoidance of restrictions that limits competition. 3, fairness and integrity. Being impartial and treating all suppliers in the same way, as well as having a sense of honesty. 5, transparency. This is a process by which reliable, timely information about existing conditions, decisions, and actions relating to the procurement activities are made accessible, visible, and understandable. 5, accountability. The actions at one should not be contrary to the financial and administrative instructions or policies, and if so, will be held personally responsible and financially liable for the consequences of such actions. 6. Interest of EAC and its clients. The principle is derived from the ultimate objective of the procurement, which is to add value to the EAC and its stakeholders in fulfilling their goals and objectives. This relates that procurement activities are carried out in a manner that best enables EAC and its clients to reach the general and specific objectives of the project agreements in compliance with applicable procurement procedures. 6.2.1 Procurement Process Cycle. The procurement process evolves through the following cycle. 1. Budgeting and planning for requirement procurements of a given period of time, recognition of demands and needs, budget and funds availability confirmed. Now on page 8. Development of specifications and terms of reference, approval of methods to use, preparation of bidding documents, advertising procurement notices and solicitation, receiving and opening of bids, evaluation of bids. Under this evaluation report prepared and submitted to the procurement committee with successful bidder recommended and thereafter notification of awards transmitted. 10. Award of contract or placing of the purchase order upon confirmation of funds, contract execution and management, delivery inspection at vendors' premises of different works, receiving and inspection at final destination as necessary, installation and commissioning as necessary, certification of invoices for payment, contract monitoring, evaluation and reporting, administrative review and complaints of committee work, contract closure, supplier performance evaluation, keeping procurement records and preparation of reports, and procurement audit and answering queries. Bullet number 6.3, still on page 8, resource mobilization in the EAC context. The legal framework that provides for resource mobilization is enshrined in the provisions of the treaty as follows. 1. Article 132.4, which stipulates that the budget of the committee shall be funded by equal contributions by the partner states and receipts from regional international donations and any other sources that may be determined by the council. Article 132.4 is further supplemented by the provisions of Article 133 that other resources of the community shall include extra budgetary resources such as grants, A, donations, funds for projects and programs and technical assistance, B, income earned from activities undertaken by the community. Article 71.1 provides that the Secretariat shall be responsible for the mobilization of funds from the development partners and other sources for implementation of the projects of the community. I'm now on page number 9. Key players in resource mobilization. The key players in the resource mobilization are as follows. 1, the Secretary General is the one who provides guidance on all major fundraising efforts and donor consultations. He or she is the signatory of all funding agreements within the community. 2, heads of organs, institutions, directorates, and departments. This is done by identifying key priorities and resource requirements for donor support after they initiate contacts with different development partners in their respective sectors. EAC Mobilization Network. This comprises of focal point officers from all EAC organs and institutions. He or she acts as a liaison officer between his and her institution and the EAC Resource Mobilization Office. Bullet 6.3.2 Strategic Approaches. The community has been able to apply these strategies in order to identify donors. 1, strengthening the resource mobilization function. the resource mobilization network, which comprises of the focal points persons from all the EAC organs and institutions were established. 2, enhancement of internal skills and capacity on resource mobilization. Trainings on resource mobilization matters are organized for staff of the EAC organs and institutions to understand and fully embrace the concept and roles and responsibilities associated with the resource mobilization function. 3, executive management buy-in. The top-level management buy-in from organs and institutions is required so as to facilitate and support the execution of the resource management function. 4, donor mapping and intelligence gathering. The Resource Mobilization Office undertakes donor intelligence, which include mapping of donors around thematic areas of the EAC integration and donor profile. 5, capitalizing on international meetings and events. The major development partners have the annual meetings in which invitation is extended to all other donors and stakeholders, which the EAC attends to both on the continent and outside the continent. 6, organizing annual donor forum. This was established in 2018 to provide donors an opportunity to get technical updates on topical areas, network with EAC staff and peers, and consider future funding decisions. Organizing of specific donor roundtable. The Secretariat convenes a variety of development partners roundtable meetings. I now move to page 10. Bullet number 6.33, development partners and areas of support. The following are the partners that support the community. 1, the African Development Bank, which covers areas of infrastructure, financial sector development, and social sectors, particularly education and women empowerment. 2, Alliance for a Green Revolution, which covers agriculture. 3, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation supports the health sector. 4, the Chinese government supports institutional capacity strengthening, peace and security. 5, Denmark contributes to the EAC Partnership Fund. 6, the European Union Commission supports areas in institutional capacity strengthening, infrastructure, trade, customs, peace and security. 7, Federal Republic of Germany through KfW and GIZ. They do support infrastructure, trade enabling environment and social sectors, particularly in health, education, and gender empowerment. 8, Finland makes a contribution to the EAC Partnership Fund. And 9, French government through the French Development Agency, whose MOU has been signed recently and support areas are being discussed. 10, Japan International Cooperation Agency supports areas of infrastructure, trade, and customs. 11, Norway makes its contribution to the EAC Partnership Fund. 12, the Swedish International Development Agency supports the health sector. 13, the Swiss Development Corporation support for the technical and vocational education. 14, Trademark East Africa supports trade and customs. 15, UNEP supports climate change. 16, UNEP supports education. 17, United States through USAID East Africa supports agriculture, trade, health, energy, institutional capacity strengthening, environment, and climate change. 18, World Bank supports infrastructure, financial sector development, and social sectors, particularly education and health. Bullet point 6.3.4, key achievements. The year ended June 2020. Financing agreements were signed with development partners, totaling to the amount of US dollars 170,244,372 through direct support to the EAC projects and technical assistance as follows. 1, Germany, US dollars 143,412,000, supported among others the EAC Regional Mobile Laboratory Program, immunization program and the ESC scholarship program. 2, the EU, among others, spent US $15,810,320, the climate change adaptation and mitigation actions, peace and security. The AFDB, US $6,680,068 gave support to the Republic of South Sudan payment systems infrastructure and financed the design for rehabilitation of the selected Manyovu/Mugina one-stop border post. US aid, US $3,419,384, supported several projects in the areas of agriculture, trade, and environment. Swiss Development Agency, US $400,000, supported the regional TVET harmonization. AGRA, US $322,600, supported the CADAAP implementation, and China, US $200,000, supported capacity building. 6.4, recruitment processes and staff welfare. In every budget cycle, the Human Resource Department prepares staffing and welfare plan where it establishes the total number of staff required and the budget for them. The plan contains the existing staff and staff to be recruited, which necessitates the development of a recruitment plan. The following is the recruitment cycle of the community. 1, advertisement through major circulating print and electronic media in all partner states. 2, receiving applications which are addressed to the Secretary General through email, post, and courier. 3, short listing is done after the application advertisement deadline. The list of shortlisted candidates is published on the ESC website for 2 weeks, and successful candidates are informed accordingly. 4, interview process as of Regulation 21(1) and 2 provides for the composition of the interviewing panel, which includes Secretary General, 1 representative from every partner state, line Deputy Secretary General, DG Clerk and Register where applicable, Head of HR, and any other co-opted staff. However, the 30th meeting of the Council held in Nairobi established an ad hoc ESC Service Commission. The decision is ESC/CM 30/decision 03. 5, appointment of successful candidates in the category of professional staff is executed by the Council of Ministers, while general staff is by the Secretary General. I'm now on page 12 on staff welfare. The employee welfare entails everything from services, facilities, and benefits that are provided or done by an employer for the advantage or comfort of an employee. This is in order to motivate employees and raise the productivity level. The following are the statutory welfare provisions extended to staff. 1, medical scheme, which is provided for under Regulation 56 of Staff Rules and Regulations. 2, health and safety at work is provided under Regulation 58. 3, life insurance that is under Regulation 61 provides for group insurance to cover for group life insurance, group personal accident, and total permanent disability. 4, assistance of staff or family in case of death, which is stipulated in Regulation 67. 5, other welfare services are stipulated in Regulation 60 that include counseling, continued illness, bereavement, and group activities such as sporting, childcare facilities, tours, and picnics. 6.5, cross-cutting challenges. The committee noted the following challenges affecting the areas highlighted. 1, insufficient resources allocated to staff recruitment and staff welfare activities during the ESC budget adoption. 2, staffing gap that has jeopardized the integration agenda since some activities cannot proceed. 3, donor procedures supersede EAC procedures in procurement, law funding. 5, non-implementation of the procurement plan. 6, COVID-19 pandemic has led to cancellation of fundraising programs and shift of priorities, leading to a decrease in donor funding. 7, high competitive environment over access to donor funding. 8, unsynchronized financial years between the EAC and donors' financial years, which causes delays in implementation of projects whose funding agreements are signed after the conclusion of the EAC budget process. 9, limited provision of counterpart funding. 10, difficulties encountered in recovery of VAT on donor-funded projects, which has had a challenging impact on the accountability of donor-funded projects at the community. Now on page 13. 11, restrictions on provision of support to projects in the Republic of Burundi and South Sudan by GIZ and USAID. Bullet number 7, observations. The following observations were made. 1, the committee observed the delayed recruitment, which has led to staffing gap within the community. This has caused some departments to operate with only one staff, leading to operational challenges in terms of output delivery and accomplishment of programs and projects. 2, the failure by the community to come up with legislations on both procurement and financial management has led to loopholes in the management of finances, procurement, and assets within the community. 3, the committee observed that majority of the procurement execution for organs and institutions is coordinated at the Secretariat. 4, the committee observed that delayed execution of a sustainable financing mechanism for the community, which has led to low execution of VSC programs and projects due to delayed remittances from partner states. 5, the failure to finalize the process of establishment and operationalization of the East Africa Community Development Fund, which is to be a major mechanism and option for resource mobilization for the East Africa community. 6, the committee noted the increased number of institutions of the community, which has increased the volume of the audit report over the years, creating time constraints towards interaction with the EAC Audit Commission and management of the EAC organs and institutions on the audit queries. The committee noted with concern the failure by Council to implement recommendations adopted by the House or Assembly. 8, the committee noted the lengthy procurement process carried out by the community, which in turn can lead to corruption tendencies. Now on page 14, bullet number 8, titled Recommendations. In view of the above, the committee would like to make the following recommendations. 1, urge the Council of Ministers to expedite the recruitment process so as to employ staff, and in the same vein, put in place a framework to fast-track recruitment of project staff. 2, urge the Council of Ministers to consider the finalization of establishment and operationalization of the EAC Development Fund. 3, urge the Council of Ministers to expedite the operation of a sustainable financing mechanism for the community so as to reduce the delays in remittance of funds from partner states' contributions. 4, urge the Council of Ministers to put in place a framework to harmonize the procurement procedures and budget cycle for EAC with the donors. 5, urge the Council of Ministers to elevate the procurement section from its current status to a directorate or department so as to be able to operate effectively and efficiently. 6, urge the Council of Ministers to create procurement positions at all EAC institutions and organs so as to effectively implement the procurement plans. 7, urge the Council of Ministers to embrace and develop infrastructure that will support electronic technology systems in areas of procurement and finance. 8, urge the Council of Ministers to expedite the framework for engagement between the EAC and development partners so as to limit the effects of bilateral issues between individual partner states and donors to the regional initiative. 9, urge the leadership of the Assembly to consider putting in place mechanisms which follow up on non-implementation of recommendations that are adopted by the House or Assembly. 10, urge the leadership of the Assembly to consider providing the committee more time while carrying out its audit obligations since the institutions of the community have increased. 11, urge the EAC Secretary to have transparency during distribution chain of suppliers within the partner states. 12, which is on page 15, urge the leadership of the Assembly to consider development compendiums that reflect the business of the House, which can be used as a tool for reference. 13, urge the Council of Ministers to consider revising the EAC procurement cycle, which is lengthy so as to avoid corruption tendencies. Conclusion. In conclusion, the committee wishes to urge the leadership of the Assembly to always organize capacity building activities at the change of composition of its membership for all committees so as to enhance their knowledge. This was a timely response to improve the understanding of the very important aspects of the Directorate of Finance, Human Resource and Resource Mobilization of the EAC Secretariat. The committee therefore recommends to the Assembly to adopt the report. I submit right on the speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ken, Chairperson, Committee on Accounts. Honorable members, before I open the debate, let us stretch for 5 minutes. Suspend the House for 5 minutes. Thank you, honorable members. We are back in session. I now want to propose the motion. And the motion before the House is that the report of the Committee on Accounts on the capacity building activity be adopted. Debate is open. Honorable Engineer Mnya, Honorable Sophia Savimana, Honorable Jean-Claude, Honorable Rose Akol, Honorable Oda Gasinzigwa, Honorable Mariam Usi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for having this opportunity to say something on this good report presented by Honorable Chair of the Account Committee. First of all, Honorable Speaker, I really commend the Chair of the Accounts Committee for the good report he presented. And I would like to comment on very few issues here. From page 13, when he said regarding what the committee observed, that the committee observed the delay of recruitment, which has led to the staffing gap within the community, and so on and so forth. Honorable Speaker, this issue of delay of recruitment, it has been articulated in this year August Assembly for many years now. And the issue is still remaining unsolved as it is required to be solved by the Council of Ministers. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to realize that when we don't move as we are required as a community, some of the problems, they can be managed inside the community, but it seems we don't have solutions despite your August Parliament have insisted and have not pinpointed out all where we have problems. This recruitment issue is a really problem. And Mr. Speaker, the work our assistant clerks, they are doing is so tedious. They have, one clerk is moving from different committees and doing reports from different committees. Really, we are really sympathetic. This issue has to be solved. What is the really problem? And when we are like this, we don't see even the Council of Ministers here, who are really then in charge if the Council of Ministers, they don't solve this kind of problems. If I can give you a specific example, because this COVID issue has led us to understand a lot of things when some of us, we were...
Sorry, Honorable Mnya, I think our staff should inform members that the idea about stretching was not meant to be permanently exiting the chamber. Yeah? Please, tell them to be back. Even if we have quorum, but we want them in the chamber. Yes, yes. Okay, Mheshimiwa Engineer.
So the issue of COVID, and when we had these virtual meetings, it has led us to understand a lot of things. And now, if what I know now from that COVID issue when I was reporting at the Kiswahili Commission in Zanzibar, and from this point whereby the problem of recruitment, I can just give you one specific example. That Kiswahili Commission, according to the document we have seen there, is supposed to have to be managed by 36 workers. Today, there are only 6 out of 36 which are required. There are only 6. Out of those 6, only 4, they are the permanent employees. 2 are temporary. They are signing agreement every 6 months, including somebody from the IT whom we were very much depending, still is doing as a temporary employee. So out of 36, to have only 4 permanent workers and 2 temporary, this is really a catastrophe. What do we expect that commission, what kind of research they can do? This is very difficult. Mr. Speaker, another thing whereby the committee has observed that the committee has noted the concern, the failure by the council to implement the recommendation adopted by the House or this assembly. This is another setback for the community. When every time we are here, we argue for the Council of Ministers, we urge the Council of Ministers, urge the Council of Ministers. How many times are we going to urge Council of Ministers and they are not doing their job? We cannot continue like this. And the example is which I have said, a commission which has to be managed by 36 workers is managed by 4. Mr. Speaker, there are some other issues following this one. The committee, among the recommendation of the committee, that the committee urged the leadership of the assembly now, not the Council of Ministers now, the leadership of the assembly to consider putting in place mechanism through which to follow up the non-implementation of recommendation and adopt the House. Mr. Speaker, now this recommendation is in your jurisdiction. Totally, we don't depend here on the Council Minister. We don't argue with the Council now anymore. Is in your jurisdiction. Therefore, we really like that if you have standing committees, you can form, right, Honourable Speaker, a subcommittee, at least to know how many times we have urged the Council of Ministers to do something and they are not doing. How many times we have said about recruitment of the staff and they are not doing. Not only that, but how many partner states they have not rectified some protocols. This is the information your assembly need to know, and for the record, and it can be put here among the name and shame things which are not executed by the Council of Ministers. Maybe they can do something. So we really like, Right Honourable Speaker, this recommendation number 9 to be executed by yourself is under your jurisdiction. From those only 2 points, Right Honourable Speaker, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Engineer. Yeah, Honorable Sophie.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, to give me the floor. First of all, Right Honourable Speaker, I want to come on the Article 132, which calls the Secretariat to use the budget of the community equally. Then what I want to ask, is really the budget of the community used equally in all partner states? If yes, it's a good thing. If no, something should be done. I propose the revision of this article, because the people, the citizens of this community should have the gain of EAC integration equally. That was my point 1. The second point is what I saw on page 13. on page 13, there is instructions on a provision of support to two projects in the Republic of Burundi and South Sudan by GIZ and the USAID. Right, Honorable Speaker, when I was reading this passage, immediately I think that this restriction has been put in my country because maybe the bad history of my country, which we faced in the former time. But I think that now we are on a good progression. Then I suggest that I suggest that we are under sanctions. You know, you all know, there are many years. But I think that most the people are the most who are suffering from this these sanctions. I propose that they can be the other way of putting people together, of putting the sides between them have conflict and put them and guide them the way they can interact. They can just make a dialogue which will conduct them to arrive to a good consensus where all the people will feel like they are really benefiting the good governance of the authorities. The other thing, Right Honorable Speaker, when I'm still here, I come to say that even though this restriction has been is still on my country, I think that this cannot be broke the ESC projects which should be done for the different institutions which are in a partner state. I gave an example, the Human Health Research Commission, which is based in my country. I think this cannot be broken because of this restriction, which is now on my country. I think I take this opportunity, Right Honorable Speaker, to tell you that the Health Research Commission, the Human Health Research Commission, which is based in my country, has a project, as we have already mentioned, when we visited that institution. They have a project of constructing their own house. We got time to interact with them when we were assigned by the Secretariat to visit the different institutions which are in a respective partner state. I really saluted that good idea of building their own office. And then I beg that this should be given much important so that they will arrive to the dream of getting their own office, hoping that the Secretariat and even other donors, if you can get the way to contact them, or of course they are still missing the funds to start. The land is there. They bought their own land. They are just missing the money to start the project. I think that this will be a good project when we talk about this activity of account. I immediately understand how money of the community can be used. Without forgetting, this is also a good idea just letting them get their own house, because for sure, though, now they are renting the house. They are renting the house. I think in case they get their own house, it will be good. That money which was being used for renting offices, it will just help the community to do other things. Right Honorable Speaker, I support the report and I submit. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Sophia. Honorable Claude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I would like to start by thanking our chairperson, Honorable Kennedy Karonzo Musyoka, for the leadership he has shown during this capacity building activity of the committee. And also, I would want to take this time also to thank the committee members. And I want to declare that also I'm a committee member of this accounts committee. My concern, Honorable Speaker, is one, and was touched on by Honorable Engineer Munya. It is about the recurrent recommendations that we always pass here in the Assembly. One of them is that one of recruitment of staff in EAC, but also there is another one which is alternative financing mechanism. The council has not yet pronounced itself on whether it has failed to implement this project. But we always, in all reports which are passed, discussed here in the Assembly, we always find the similar or the same recommendations coming and being adopted in this Assembly. That Honorable Speaker, when you look at the process through which the recommendations which are passed by this Assembly reaches the partner states, but also the Council of Ministers, you find that there is also a gap which might be also a reason why these recommendations we pass in the Assembly, some of them are not implemented. When we pass recommendations here in the Assembly, they are forwarded, or the reports are forwarded to the ministries responsible, the MEACA, in the partner states. But when during our discussions in the committee, we found that probably the recommendations from this Assembly are not given the deserved attention, because they are sent to the partner states together with also other recommendations from sectoral councils and also the council itself. And you find that probably the recommendations of the Assembly are not given much attention as they deserve. So we always urge Council of Ministers to do this and that, but also I think there is also chance that, or probability that maybe Council doesn't have enough time to go through these recommendations and be able to also act on them. In other parliaments in EAC partner states, you find they have responsible committees to do follow-ups of the recommendation that those parliaments pass. But we in our Assembly, we don't have those kind of committees responsible to follow up the recommendations we pass here in the Assembly. And I'm much aware that members do follow-ups through questions to the Council for all or written answers. They also move motions, but this is enough. This is not enough. I think we need also maybe to go a step further to follow up, like we tried in the Committee on Accounts when we did follow up on particularly on the recommendations which were adopted by the House with regard to the Audit Commission reports. But yes, it's also possible that other committees can also do the same. But I think also there is a need for the Council of Ministers to help by strengthening our department of library and research department, so that it can help the Assembly to do follow-up. by adding more staff in that department so that it can be able to do follow-ups of the recommendations which are passed via this assembly. But also, when we discussed about, and during the committee, when we discussed about these recurrent recommendations, and we therefore, as a consequence, as a result, we have been able to recommend this recommendation number 9. We found that there is also a possibility or a way forward to this problem. But in addition to that, of urging council to strengthen our Department of Library and Research, there is a possibility that our clerk, the clerk of committees, can help to draft or to always prepare a matrix of the Assembly's recommendations together with the council assurances or commitments towards those recommendations, so that committees and the Assembly in general can also do follow-up by using those matrices. But also this matrix can help our Honorable Speaker for even the other members who will replace us in the 5th or other sixth Assembly also to find or to rely on those matrix to know how far the previous Assembly has gone in implementing the recommendations that they pass. That Honorable Speaker, I think in collaboration with the Council of Ministers, we can also find a solution to this problem. I do support this report, and I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kroy. Honorable Rose, next.
Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to say my thoughts on this report. First of all, I want to thank the chair of the Committee on Accounts and the team members for the well thought out report, well presented, and with the serious implications, of course, for both us, the Assembly, and also the way forward for us all as a community. Right, Honorable Speaker, benchmarking is very important, and also training of our members here, especially on such technical committees. I mean, all committees, but Committee on Accounts is an oversight committee, and then also Committee on General Purpose that has to look at the budget. These two committees specifically have a big heap of documents they normally have to go through within a short time, and they should be able to come up with a report. But the challenge is we all come from different backgrounds. So to interrogate an audit report, to interrogate a budget estimates report for the whole community is not easy. These are reports that have over 1,000 pages. And it is the reason, Right Honorable Speaker, I've been trying to always recommend and request that funds permitting, there is need for this assembly to be assisted. There is need for members to be assisted by the establishment of a technical arm that will always interrogate these documents and give the summary report to either Committee on Accounts or Committee on General Purpose. One in a place that I know of, which are in our respective assemblies, some, I'm talking for the Uganda Assembly, the Assembly, the Parliament of Uganda. We have what they call the budget office, but it's normally populated by technical people that actually help the assembly to interrogate some of these documents, because we all come from different backgrounds and limited understanding of these reports. And also the time to read through is not there, especially now for a committee like accounts, a committee like GP, you are given 17 days. When do you go through 1,000 pages and be able to comfortably deliberate on it and pick out the key issues on such a report? So it's the reason we will always keep making this request to council that with the time, perhaps if the challenge or if the limitation is resources, then when that opportunity comes, we really need such an office so that we are able to do meaningful work. It's not that I'm saying we are not doing meaningful work now. We do, but with a lot of challenges. So that we are able to come up with the reports, and it makes work easier for all of us, also as members of parliament. Right, Honorable Speaker, a lot has been said. I'm on the recommendations of the report, actually. That's where I'm looking at. On recommendation one of recruitment, that one cannot be overemphasized. It has always been the routine recommendation, and we hope now that we see some hope anyway that it is going to happen, because as members have emphasized, these clerks work like donkeys. They don't have time to rest. Like now, even our work as parliament is limited by the numbers. We don't have enough clerks to help in committees. When all committees sit, it becomes a challenge for clerks. So we really need the clerks. We don't have someone here in Hansard. We don't have someone in the communications department. They're empty. So basically, the assembly is incapacitated by the lack of human resource. And it is very critical that we get these human resources to help the assembly perform its duties. Right, Honorable Speaker, on the issue of sustainable funding, this is a long outstanding issue, and I think it has been revolving even since the third assembly, and cannot be overemphasized, but it is very critical. You cannot say that you're in charge when you cannot, even in a family, you cannot say you're in charge when you cannot handle the issues, when you don't have the resources to run your home. Others are the ones running your home. So who owns when you have other people funding you to run your home? Who now plays the key role, especially when it comes to objectives? So when we have this community being funded extensively, substantially by the donor community, who also now are actually having challenges because of the current pandemic that is now worldwide, it becomes a very difficult situation for the community. And that's why we are having some of these challenges, where there is non-implementation of certain key, very strategic decisions and objectives, because there's no money. So to depend on member states in the manner we're doing right now may not be, it's not sustainable actually. So this one really should be, the council should look at how to overcome this challenge. Right, Honorable Speaker, on the issue of establishment of a ESC development fund. I've always talked about the budget really having what we call the recurrent and also the development side. As it is, that is how a budget should be. And where there are a lot of things that the ESC can do when such a fund is established. We have a lot that we can do as East African community, especially on projects of common good to the ESC as a community in the integration agenda. So how this would like to see in our budget that apart from the recurrent expenditure that takes about 80 or 90% of the current budget, would like to see the project side, the development side, that could be having projects of common good like now implementation of the standard gauge railway could be one of those projects that would run across all the ESC countries and link us, and it would enhance trade, definitely. And it's one of the key objectives that this ESC community exists. the road networks, the IT infrastructure. Talk about security in this era of terrorism. You talk about the oil exploration and exploitation, the health sector, and also climate change. These are some of the things that we could do as a community if we had a fund which would focus on development of such projects for our common good as East African community countries. Right, Honorable Speaker, on the issue of non-implementation of recommendations that are adopted by the House or the Assembly, yes, it is very important that we put a mechanism, but not necessarily recommendations. When we make recommendations to Council, it is not automatic that they must be implemented. The Council also has to review, and when they review, then they come with assurances. So where Council gives assurances on certain matters, then we must have something. I always refer back to the Assembly where I came from, and that's the Parliament of Uganda, where we have a committee on government assurances. Here we would have something of a similar nature, maybe a committee on council assurances. Where a council gives assurance, it means they know it can be done, and they're assuring the Assembly that, yes, we are committed to doing this. So once there's that commitment, then we note them down, and maybe on a quarterly basis, bring a record of these council assurances as a reminder to council, and periodically do that, so that we are in tandem with what we want to do, and what actually has to be done, and whether such things are commitments have been done. So basically, right, Honourable Speaker, those are the few issues I wanted to make a comment on, but also again thank the committee for the job well done. This was a very precise report, and also well presented by the chair. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Rose. You forgot to switch off the microphone. Yeah. Honourable Order.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity. I want to declare that I'm a member of the committee, and I want to say that I support the report, and because I was part of the whole process of this capacity building, I'll be brief. I raised the Right Honourable Speaker just to first of all say that we realized in this capacity building exercise that this is one of the components which is very important for the committees. And as Honorable Rose mentioned, especially on the Accounts Committee, which scrutinizes the audit report, which has been worked on by our audit commission from our member states. And it is one of the important functions of this assembly. And by that, I want to thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, because this is one of the innovation. I know even in other previous assemblies, this has been attempted, but I have seen that in this fourth Eala, through your leadership, this capacity building has been one of the priority. And I want to thank members that during the committee's discussions on the priorities, on the activities, this has continued to be one of the priorities. Right Honourable Speaker, I raised it just to emphasize that we really need to continue coming up with capacity programs in our committees, especially as we are working on putting in place all our efforts to make sure that we deliver on our mandate. Right Honorable Speaker, specifically when you look into the responsibilities of this committee, and when you look into how the world is moving very fast, especially if you consider the technology outside here, how it is moving very fast, how the world is moving very fast, and especially when you talk about financial management. Financial management is one of the sectors which evolve day by day. Right Honorable Speaker, if we take an experience of this committee, when we discuss with different institutions and organs of this community, you find that many procedures have been put in place, financial systems have been put in place, and even within these institutions, they have a lot of challenges in the capacity. So you imagine at the institution level, at the organization, I mean at the projects level, actually this also relates on the issue of the staffing and the staff we have, the challenges we have of the staff in our different institutions and projects of this community. You find when it comes to the issue of accountability and the issue of auditing, which really is supposed to be taken care of, because the resources of this community are going to be well managed if this tendency or this practice of making sure that we scrutinize, we monitor the implementation of different projects by doing the proper audit, then you realize that the capacity building is very important at the assembly level, at the institution level, and even at our different projects within this community. Right Honorable Speaker, mine was to insist and to recommend that we continue prioritizing this activity of capacity building in our different committees, but more specifically when we do our budgets, so that we make sure that we have money to help the committees conduct this activity. Right Honorable Speaker, with those few words, I support the report, and because it is clearly stating the challenges facing different institutions, it is clearly suggesting the observations as realized by the committee, and it is giving out, it is proposing the recommendation, though as my colleagues have clearly mentioned, we still have a challenge of implementation of these recommendations, but we are sure that our council, the ministers are going to work on this, and it has been a proposal by this assembly that we get the report quarterly. And I remember very well, I think it was last year when we requested that at least quarterly we get the report from the council on the implementation status of different recommendations, either from the committees or from the assembly in general. I therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, once again want to thank my chair, Honorable Kalonzo, for the good work, the committee, and want once again to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your facilitation to make sure that we have the skills. We are coming from different backgrounds, but when we come here, you facilitated us so that we can be able to perform the mandate we have been assigned into the committees. I submit, Right Honorable Chair, and once again support the report.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Order. The next is Honorable Mariam. Then Honorable Dr. Woda will follow. Honorable Rutazana will follow.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, also let me take this opportunity to congratulate the chair of the committee and also the member for this noble cause they did. Right Honorable Speaker, mine is just to touch on the recommendation, but also I have one point in page 12 of the report. Right Honorable Speaker, before even I contribute, I just want to add as well that the issue of sanction in Republic of Burundi, I wasn't even aware that some of the EAC donors have skipped Burundi. I believe that this is not correct because EAC, we call each other one people, one destiny. And Burundi has joined EAC way back. It is unfortunate that some donors will fund part of East Africa and leave one partner state from same East African community. I believe this can be worked on by the Council of Ministers. And even though we need donors funding, but as EAC, we should stand together and even boycott donors that don't give equal fund in all partner states. And we shall continue to raise a voice. Honestly, in my side, I even forgot that Burundi is still in sanction. So as EAC, together, we must raise our voice until Burundi is been out of those sanctions. Right Honorable Speaker, my main point will be on page 12 on the issue of staff welfare. I have read here and I have realized that there are some welfare that is given to only staff, but very importantly, these welfare, they have skipped also members of parliament. Right Honorable Speaker, my comment is to urge the Chair Council and the Council of Ministers, together with the Secretariat, to make sure when they are looking at staff welfare, to also include policy for members' welfare, because as members and as mothers, as member of parliament mothers, it's only this parliament that doesn't give maternity leave for the female members. It's only in this parliament that there is no child care policy for members. When we give birth, we are forced to come back to work few months after we just give birth with our babies at hand, with our assistant, without any help. And it is very expensive. One might look at the member as very rich executive, but there is a situation where you have to decide whether to stop breastfeeding and leave your child at home or hold your child to come to the plenary. I remember there was a time Honorable Susan had to come with her baby in a pram in a committee meeting because she did not have anybody to look after her child. But this welfare is provided in all other parliaments around the world and even in Africa. So when the issue of welfare is looked upon, I urge council, and I shall bring question and other elaboration on the same, on this policy. On the same policy, Right Honorable Speaker, we need funeral expenses to be provided in the policy for both staff and members, because even though we know when a member died during their tenure, they can be given life assurance will be given to them. But we need the EAC to cater for members and staff for the funeral expenses. For example, for us Muslim, the day we die, we're supposed to be buried on the same day or the next day, if we have to wait for anything else. But normally we are supposed to be buried the same day when we died. So if I have to wait for the life assurance to be given to my family, that means my family might even struggle to bury me when I'm still a member. Right, Honorable Speaker, this issue even is there is a delay on this welfare, even for the staff of EAC. As I'm speaking, I'm aware and it's just a person, a Tanzanian person who just contacted me that one of their relative who is a senior staff in EAC Secretariat who passed away, maybe now it's second month we are entering, but his spouse have not been given any of the allowances or the money that she was supposed to receive. And I actually brought this to the attention of the Secretariat on the DSG. I brought this situation and he was assuring me that this thing will be sorted off. But this is just a staff who is a senior staff. Let's think of those junior staff. If their emolument is delayed while they are bereaving, it is very heartbreaking. So this issue of welfare, I want to urge especially the Secretariat to make sure first they also include Member of Parliament on the issue of welfare. Also to make sure they swiftly pay the spouses of members and the staff when there is death in their family. Right, Honorable Speaker, the last one I want to be included on welfare is the policy that pay regularly for those members assistant, for the members who have disabilities. When I was a commissioner, it was a problem for us to ask for the payment of the assistant of our colleagues who have disability. This thing should not have weight. This is very sensitive issue. We have policy of non-discrimination, but when you delay to pay assistant of a member or of the staff, their payments, you actually discriminate them indirectly. So I'd like to urge Secretariat, I would like to urge the Council of Ministers, this policy needs to be put there clearly. The issue of child care policy, we were arguing about this, we brought in the attention of this parliament since Eala 3, but we see the same problem that our colleagues is facing in Eala 4. So in finalizing this, right, Honorable Speaker, I will also support Honorable Order when she said that we need to come up, the Secretariat need to, and the Council of Ministers need to come up with a report quarterly or annually on how all the recommendation of the committees that has been given to the Council of Ministers and to the Secretariat, how much or how far they reach in implementation. If we don't scrutinize the implementation of these recommendation, that means we are not doing anything. Here we'll be just giving same recommendation year in, year out, and we don't see the implementation of it. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I support the motion, I support the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maria. Honorable Dr. Oda.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And first of all, I want to congratulate our young chair, Honorable Kennedy, who is a very able chair. And I want to also thank the committee members. And I want to declare that I'm a member in this committee. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank also your office for availing for us this very important capacity building, and I'm one of the beneficiaries of this capacity building. Right Honorable Speaker, I have only brief points to elaborate on. The first one is the observation of the committee. The committee has observed that the donor procedures supersede ESC procedures in procurement. And this was really surprising for us because this is a community whereby our procedures should be really very ideal, so that the donor community should go according to our procedures. But we found that it is the vice versa. So I think the Council of Ministers, the Secretariat, I was happy that the SG was here, but I cannot see him now, that this thing should be ratified, because as a community, we really need to have good procedures. The other point also, which was elaborated by some of my colleagues, is the restriction on provision of the support to projects in the Republic of Burundi and South Sudan by GIZ and USAID. Right, Honorable Speaker, one of our colleagues has mentioned that the community has to do something regarding this because the people who are suffering because of these political or economical sanctions, these are not the government themselves, these are the citizens of East Africa. And if we are one people and we have one destiny, I think we have, and we should also stand together. The other thing, right, Honorable Speaker, is that I cannot say I will not talk about the staff recruitment. Sincerely, I said before that 4 years we have been urging and urging. Whenever I see the understaffing, I see the underfunding, I feel very bad because it's like we are doing things, we are recommending, and these recommendations are not being taken seriously. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have clerks here. Our dear clerks, they are really torn apart between committees, between the plenary, between many things. Even it's affecting the quality of the work of the assembly. And we cannot even demand them more because these are human beings, they have families, they have even health to care about because this situation even can be on the expense of their health, right, Honorable Speaker. So I urge the Council of Ministers, I don't know how we urge more because we have been urging, but really this is very serious because otherwise we'll not go ahead urging even to the last year of our tenure here in ESC and in this assembly. Right, Honorable Speaker, I would like to support this report and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Oda. Honorable Rutazana.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I'd like to add my voice for thanking the chair of the account committee for a good report and the members of the same committee for a job well done. Mine is to comment on the procurement system and the procedures. Right Honorable Speaker, 6 out of the 13 recommendations of this report are talking about the procedures of procurement, which is showing the importance of this matter in the ESC community. Right, Honorable Speaker, we all know that the procurement system and the procedures is provided by the treaty in Article 5. Which is now leading to the good governance and the accountability. Right, Honorable Speaker, when we are talking about procurement, we are talking about value of money. We are talking about the accountability, good governance. We are talking about the objectivity in how the secretariat or the department in charge is dealing with the choice of suppliers to be able to choose the best one that is leading also to the interest of the community so that the need which is supposed to be gained will be really taken off while proceeding to the procurement. Right, Honorable Speaker, I think if we have those 6 out of 13, that is a matter of urgency. And we urge the council to work on those recommendations so that we can have accountability, really, effective accountability, so that we can avoid also the corruption tendencies. Right, Honorable Speaker, the procurement is a strong indicator on how the institution is credible and how the institution is trustful. We need really to make the ESC an organization which is credible vis-a-vis the partners, vis-a-vis the stakeholders, even vis-a-vis our ESC people, because they need to see the value of money. Right, Honorable Speaker, I urge the council to take this matter as a serious one so that we can see this community improving really. And the effectiveness is really needed so that we can not continuing damaging and also mismanaging the little resources we have in our community. Right, Honorable Speaker, I have planned to also talk about the implementation of the recommendations made by the Assembly, but I've seen it has been well elaborated. I don't want to continue emphasizing because we are with a member of the council and we hopefully they will be now working hard on that matter because it is also part of the accountability. Because when we go to the field, we are interacting with the people. We are interacting with the stakeholders. And again, when we go there, they are raising the same issues. We come back again, urging the council to continue. That is really a waste of time, a waste of energy, and a waste of resources because we are turning around, we are not improving. So really we need an improvement from the council so that this issue should be once and for all removed on the recommendation we are passing in this assembly. Right, Honorable Speaker, I once again thank the committee for a good report. I support it and I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Rutazana. Okay, now I think I need to invite the council chair if there is a comment to make. Council chair, you can take the opportunity also to clarify on the points of procedure that we are raising before.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Allow me to also join the rest of the members of this House who spoke on this report in commending the Honorable Kennedy Musyoka for a job well done, and of course, in commending the entire membership of this committee. This report is good. And this report, as usual, Mr. Speaker, without running the risk of sounding like we are being urged every time and we are not doing anything, I want to say that we will obviously study this report very, very keenly, and we will do all that is necessary to make sure that the recommendations pass as is wished by this House. But Honorable Speaker, allow me to say certain things before I get to the actual points or areas that were touched on by this report. Earlier on, because somebody else, a very honorable member, had raised an issue, matters procedural. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to commit and assure this House that sometime next week, as will be directed by you through the order paper, we shall be able to table the supplementary budget, Honorable Speaker. We shall be able to table the main budget, Mr. Speaker, and we shall also be able to table the audit report, which we as a council adopted sometime during our 42nd extraordinary council that took place on the 7th of May this year. Now back to this report, Honorable Speaker. I have seen the report speak to the matters of sustainable financing of this community. This is very critical, Honorable Speaker. And this is a matter that, whether we like it or not, as a community, before we deal with it, we will spend a lot of time speaking, talking, debating, but nothing substantial will come out of this. But it is worth reporting here, Honorable Speaker, that the ministers of finance of the 6 partner states of the EAC met and discussed this some time back, and a consultant was hired, and the consultant advised, Honorable Speaker, that we need to adopt a hybrid financing mechanism where each of the 6 partner states would do the 50% equal contribution, and that 50% would be based on the GDP per capita. Of course, there are divergent views on this, but the good news is that our ministers of finance have committed to meet sometime before September of this year to finalize on this matter so that we can now finally conclusively deal with the matters of sustainable finance. Honorable Speaker, on the issue of East African Development Fund, the 38th Council met and adopted the establishment of the EADB Fund as, of course, a window for the EADB. And we have already instructed and directed the Secretary General to meet with the EADB to work on the modalities for establishment. And we are giving them up to end of next month to report to us and see how fast then we can deal with this. And then another key issue in this community, other than underfunding, is of course understaffing as raised by very ably by the Honorable Doctor. I also want to report here, Honorable Speaker, that on the 7th of May this year, we met during the 42nd Extraordinary Council. And then finally, Honorable Speaker, finally, we agreed on how to go about it. And we directed the Secretariat to immediately put it out in the dailies. And I'm sure within the next 2-3 weeks, the process of filling all these very many vacant positions will finally begin. This also, Honorable Speaker, by the end of June, we will have either hired fully or will be about to finalize completely on this matter so that we are properly staffed. Honorable Speaker, finally, on the issue of the welfare of the members, I want to declare here that I have been a member of parliament before, back in my country. And I know how important it is, Honorable Speaker, the issue of the welfare of the members of parliament. So when I hear members of parliament talking about maternity, talking about burial, talking about disability, we're talking about so many issues of welfare, I get touched and I feel it because I've been a member of parliament. And of course, even right now, I'm an official member of this parliament. Honorable Speaker, you will agree with me, and I believe all members will, that in the last few weeks, at least, something is already happening about their welfare. And a lot is going to happen in the next few weeks. And I'm happy that even the few minutes when we had a break, I'm sure that, Honorable Speaker, we had consultations, remember, with you, with the SG, with the chair of the general purpose, with the chair of the accounts committee, whose report we are discussing now, and with few other members. And we were, of course, talking about the welfare of these members. And on the issue of the disability, we already agreed with the Secretariat that they come up with a policy that will be able to address all these measures. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to assure members that during these few coming weeks, a lot of welfare issues will be matters that will no longer be an issue, whether within the House or outside the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, honorable members, could we have had a better lineup to deal with our problems? Thank you very much. Indeed, I want to confirm that when I suspended briefly for us to stretch, although some members are still stretching. Next time it will be conditional. Yeah, but not at my initiative, but at the initiative of the council chair and the SG, we quickly convened the consultative meeting still to deal with the issues of welfare. So that shows you how serious they are working with us to sort out these problems. Honorable Kennedy, can you respond to the debate? Before you come in, Honorable CTC, the Honorable Minister has responded with regard to the reports that will be tabled here. And I will, I will put them on the order paper of Tuesday. But there is another report that Honorable Fatuma also wanted to know when it is going to be tabled, and I think Honorable Order. There were yours is included there. So the report on peace and security or something. Yes. So Honorable CTC, when is this supposed to be tabled?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. That report should be coming annually, but we have had issues with the relevant sector council meeting. And I think the promise that we can give at this stage is that we'll follow it up. And as soon as the meetings are done, we'll be able to bring it to the council so that it's tabled.
But we don't know when meetings will be done. Yeah, but I think the most important thing for you is to know that the assembly is very keen on having these reports on the floor as soon as possible.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
So Honorable Kalonzo, you can respond to that.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I am really at a loss of words for the support I've received from my committee and the members of this House. Right Honorable Speaker, the debate are centered around issues which we're all familiar with. And with your indulgence, I'd just like to highlight three. One which the Chair Council has given this House assurance on the issue of recruitment that he will take care of. The second one is on the issue of the bank that was raised. Members of this House will know from our previous interactions, and maybe the CTC will clarify, that when we last interacted with the surviving institution, that is the East African Development Bank, they informed us that the bank as constituted is not as we imagine it for purposes of our treaty, having received and diversified its investors. So maybe CTC will clarify on that issue. But finally is to commend the council and the Secretary General. I know as I looked at our website today, they have in fact advertised for the recruitment of many of these staff positions. My prayer is that they will consider the issue raised by Honorable Mnya. I was not aware that the Kiswahili Institute in Zanzibar requires 36 staff but has only 4, of which the 2 are temporary. So maybe Council Chair will look into that with Secretariat. So Speaker, then let me go to thank all those who have contributed. But before I do, there's also the issue that is, I believe, firmly on your docket that will address us on how to move forward. That was raised by Honorable Rose and many other members. In our regional, in our parliament, we have the Committee of Implementation, or I think in Uganda they call it the Committee of Assurance. Yes. So Speaker, you will direct us on how to implement these recommendations. So with those few remarks, Speaker, let me thank all those who've contributed. Start with Honorable Engineer Mnya, Honorable Sophie, Honorable Jean-Claude, Honorable Rosa Cole, Honorable Order, Honorable Dr. Wada, Honorable Dr. Mary Amusi, Honorable Rotazana, and Honorable Council Chair Kennedy Obura. And finally, Speaker, I want to thank the members of my committee, this House, and yourself, and our clerks who are stretched very thin but have been able to assist us to deliver on this important matter. So I beg to move.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Kennedy Kalonzo, Chairperson of the Committee on Accounts. Honorable members, I now want to put the question that the report of the Committee on Accounts on the capacity building activity be adopted. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I also want to join all of you to commend the committee chair and the entire committee and their support staff for a job well done. Even before we establish a specific committee to follow up on the implementation of the decisions we make here, I think we should have another mechanism that will make sure that we are able to track the implementation of different recommendations we make. I think we can still do it even within our present information. Maybe next time we meet as a commission in our future meetings, we should find a way to devise something we can propose to you. How can we, within our present information, be able to track the implementation of different decisions we make, even other decisions made by other bodies? We can also track the implementation of council decision, of the summit decision, because oversight is our mandate. So there is no limit in terms of what we can pursue to see how far there is compliance. So I think these are the kind of activities we need to concentrate on. I have seen the list of donors, projects. Do we know how they are doing? Do we know the status of their performance? So all these activities, we cannot even find time to deal with all of them. So in our next planning, in the next financial year, we have to be very strategic in terms of how we choose the kind of activities we should do. So thank you very much, the committee. Honorable members, this brings us to the end of proceedings today. I know tomorrow is a working day for you or for some of you, but because we want to be having a plenary, I want to wish you a good weekend. And I adjourn the house until next Tuesday at 2:30.